You ever been in that moment where you're just done? When you've given everything you've got and it still feels like life keeps taking more? When you're standing there, empty, tired, frustrated, and the voice in your head starts whispering, maybe it's time to quit. Yeah, I know that voice. We've all heard it. That voice that tells you it's not worth it, that you're not enough, that maybe this is just how life is going to be. But I want you to listen closely, because that voice is lying to you. You were never built to quit. You were built to rise. You were built to endure. You were built to walk through fire and still come out refined, stronger, wiser, more grounded than before. When you feel like giving up, it's not because you're weak. It's because you've been fighting alone too long. You've been trying to carry a mountain that was never meant to be lifted by one set of hands. You see, there's someone who walks beside you, even when you can't feel it. Even when you think you've been abandoned, even when you cry out and hear silence in return, he's right there, steady, patient, unmoved. And sometimes his silence isn't distance, it's preparation. It's power building inside of you. It's faith stretching you into who you were meant to become, because growth doesn't happen when things are easy. Growth happens when you have every reason to quit, and you don't. Growth happens when you fall to your knees and say, I don't know how to keep going, and still take one more step anyway. That's where transformation lives. In the next step, in the next breath, in the next act of courage, when fear screams louder than faith. You might not see the way out right now. You might not see the end of the storm, but you've got to remember you're not walking this road alone. The one who started this journey with you hasn't walked away. He's beside you, within you, guiding you through every shadow, every valley, every unanswered prayer. When you think you can't go another day, that's when he carries you. When you can't find strength in your own heart, that's when his strength becomes yours. When your vision blurs with tears, that's when he's whispering, keep going. I'm not finished with you yet. Every challenge you're facing right now, it's not punishment, it's preparation. It's shaping you into the kind of person who can handle the promise that's coming. You're being stretched, not broken, tested, not destroyed. And sometimes the greatest victory doesn't look like winning. It looks like not quitting. It looks like standing back up when everything in you says, stay down. It looks like choosing faith over fear when fear has a louder argument. So if you feel like giving up, pause, breathe, look around, and remember who walks beside you. You are never alone in your battle. You are never abandoned in your pain. You are never forgotten in your waiting. And the power walking beside you, it's greater than the pressure that's in front of you. You've come too far to stop now. You've been carried through storms you thought would drown you. You've survived nights that were darker than your worst fears. And yet, you're still here. You're still breathing. You're still standing. That's not an accident. That's divine proof that your story isn't over yet. So rise again, wipe the tears. Straighten your back, lift your head, because the moment you decide to keep walking, even when you feel like giving up, that's the moment heaven moves. And you'll realize you were never walking alone. You never will. When you feel weakest, when you're at that breaking point where the weight of life feels unbearable, that's not the moment you're being defeated. That's the moment you're being strengthened. You see, we've been conditioned to believe that weakness means failure, that struggle means something's wrong, but that's not true. The moments that make you cry out in exhaustion, the nights that leave you questioning your worth, those aren't signs that you're losing. They're signs that you're in transformation. Strength isn't built in comfort, it's forged in pressure. Diamonds don't form in easy conditions, they form under heat and weight. The same goes for you. You're not being crushed, you're being created. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. When you feel like everything is falling apart, that's often when everything is actually falling into place. It's just that your eyes can't see it yet. You think you're losing control, but what's really happening is that you're being taught to trust something greater than yourself. You're being stretched beyond the limits of what you thought you could handle because you're being called to rise to a new level. You can't access new strength by staying in old comfort zones. You can't become who you're meant to be by clinging to who you used to be. So when you feel weak, it's not a sign to quit. It's a sign to lean in. Every time you've reached the edge, every time you've thought, I can't take one more step, you found a way to move forward anyway. That's not coincidence. That's resilience. That's something deep within you, something divine rising up when your own power runs out. It's easy to feel strong when life is easy. But when life hits hard, when doors close, when people walk away, when prayers seem unanswered, that's when true strength is revealed. That's when you learn that your foundation isn't built on the approval of others or the comfort of circumstances. It's built on faith, on endurance, on the quiet power of knowing you're never really walking this path alone. Weakness is not your enemy. Weakness is your teacher. It humbles you. It strips away pride. It forces you to see what really matters. When you're brought to your knees, you start to see life from the right perspective. It's there in the lowest places that you realize who's been holding you the whole time. It's there in the silence of surrender that your heart learns to listen. You start to recognize that even when you don't feel strong, there's your strength flowing through you that isn't yours. It's borrowed from something higher. And that's the beauty of weakness, and it becomes the doorway to divine strength. So when you feel like you've got nothing left, understand that you're standing at the threshold of breakthrough. You're being emptied so you can be filled with something greater. You're being stripped of what you thought you needed so you can receive what you were truly meant to have. You're being refined. That's what strength looks like in disguise. It doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, keep going. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to try again tomorrow. Sometimes it's choosing faith over fear, one shaky breath at a time. You're stronger than you realize. You've survived things that could have broken you. You've walked through storms that should have buried you. And yet you're still here, still fighting, still showing up. That's not weakness. That's evidence of extraordinary resilience. Every scar you carry is proof that you didn't give up when you had every reason to. You don't have to feel strong to be strong. Strength is often invisible in the moment. It's revealed in hindsight when you look back and say, I didn't think I could survive that, but I did. That's what's happening now. You're surviving something that your future self will look back on with gratitude. When you feel weakest, don't misinterpret it as abandonment. That's the enemy's greatest lie, that you've been left behind, forgotten, or unseen. You haven't. You're being held, guided, and strengthened in ways you can't yet perceive. Sometimes the lesson of weakness is simply this, to learn to rely on a strength that doesn't come from you. To recognize that you're human, limited, fragile, imperfect, and yet perfectly positioned to be transformed. When you let go of the need to control, when you surrender the illusion of self-sufficiency, that's when the breakthrough begins. Strength isn't about having all the answers. It's about having the courage to face the questions. It's about standing in uncertainty and still choosing to believe. It's about showing up when you're scared, loving when you've been hurt, and forgiving when you don't feel like it. Every time you do that, you're building strength. You're becoming the kind of person who can handle what you've been praying for. Because truthfully, if life gave you every blessing before you were strong enough to carry it, it would crush you. That's why you're being strengthened now, because what's coming requires a stronger version of you. So when your hands are trembling, when your voice cracks, when your hope feels thin, it's okay. That's human. But never mistake that moment for weakness in the negative sense. You're in training. You're being molded. You're becoming. Every tear, every setback, every silent night is shaping your spirit, fortifying your faith, and deepening your capacity to rise again. Even when it feels like you're walking alone, you're not. There's a presence beside you, steady and unwavering, guiding you through the valley. And when your own strength fails, as it sometimes will, that's when you'll discover the kind of strength that never does. God's silence doesn't mean absence. It means preparation. There are seasons in life when you pray with everything inside you, when you cry out for answers, for direction, for breakthrough, and all you get in return is silence. That silence can feel suffocating. It can make you question whether your prayers are reaching anywhere at all. You start to wonder if maybe you've done something wrong, if maybe you've been forgotten, if maybe heaven has closed its doors on you. But what you don't realize is that silence doesn't mean God is gone. It means he's working behind the scenes, preparing you for what's next, aligning things in ways you can't see. The same way a seed is buried in the dark before it breaks through the soil, sometimes your growth happens in silence. That silence isn't punishment, it's strategy. When God is quiet, it's not because he's ignoring you, it's because he's building something inside you. He's shaping your patience, refining your faith, and strengthening your endurance. He's teaching you how to trust without proof, how to walk by faith and not by sight. Because real faith isn't built when everything makes sense. Real faith is built when nothing makes sense, when everything feels uncertain, and you choose to believe anyway. The silence is where your roots grow deep. It's where you learn to rely on what you know instead of what you feel. Sometimes we confuse God's silence with inaction, but he's never inactive. He's never still. Even when you can't see movement, He's moving. Even when you can't hear his voice, he's orchestrating things on your behalf. He's shifting hearts, opening doors, closing others, protecting you from paths that would have destroyed you. He's preparing the right people, the right timing, the right circumstances, because he knows if you received what you asked for too soon, it could crush you instead of bless you. So he waits. And while you're waiting, he's preparing you. Preparation seasons are uncomfortable. They feel like nothing's happening, but that's when everything is happening. Think about a sculptor. When he's creating something beautiful, the process doesn't look beautiful. It looks messy. There's chiseling, cutting, shaping, and it takes time. You are that masterpiece in progress. Every unanswered prayer, every delay, every moment of silence is a part of the shaping process. It's God chiseling away what doesn't belong, refining your character, aligning your heart with your purpose. Because sometimes the blessing isn't withheld. It's simply delayed until you're ready to carry it. When you're in a silent season, the enemy tries to fill that silence with lies. He'll tell you you've been forgotten. He'll tell you that God doesn't care, that your faith doesn't work, that you should give up. But don't fall for it. Silence is not rejection. Silence is not abandonment. Silence is a sacred space, a waiting room where faith matures. It's where you learn to trust God's heart when you can't trace his hand. It's where your spiritual muscles are built. If God answered every prayer immediately, you'd never develop strength, patience, or resilience. You'd never learn to trust his timing. And maybe that's what he's doing in you right now. Maybe he's teaching you that peace doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from knowing who holds the answers. Maybe he's teaching you that faith isn't about controlling outcomes. It's about trusting through uncertainty. Because what if his silence is actually the sound of construction? What if the reason you don't hear anything is because heaven is building something too big to be revealed yet? What if you're not waiting on God? He's waiting on you to grow into the person who can handle what's coming. Every delay has a purpose. Every quiet season has a meaning. You just can't always see it while you're in it. It's like standing backstage before the curtain rises. The audience can't see what's happening, but behind the scenes, everything is being positioned perfectly for the show to begin. That's your life right now. You're in preparation. The lights haven't come up yet, but the set is being built. The details are being arranged. The people are being placed. The moment will come when everything makes sense, but for now, you have to trust the silence. God's silence is often his way of strengthening your relationship with him. When the noise is gone, when the distractions fade, when you have nothing left but to listen, that's when you start to truly hear, not with your ears, but with your spirit. You begin to understand that he doesn't always speak in thunder. Sometimes he speaks in whispers. Sometimes he doesn't speak at all. He just moves. And the silence becomes sacred because it teaches you to seek his presence, not just his voice. It teaches you to love him for who he is, not just for what he can do. You may not realize it yet, but those silent seasons are where you're being built into someone unstoppable. They're the seasons where you learn perseverance, humility, and deep trust. They're where your faith stops being surface level and becomes unshakable. Because after you've walked through silence and still believed, nothing can shake you. After you've prayed and waited and refused to give up, you come out different, stronger, wiser, unbreakable. God's silence also tests your motives. Sometimes he holds back not to punish you, but to purify you. He wants to see, are you chasing the blessing or are you chasing him? Are you praying because you want results or because you want relationship? Because when your heart shifts from desperation to devotion, that's when you start to see that the silence wasn't emptiness, it was intimacy. It was him drawing you closer, removing the noise, making sure your faith isn't built on outcomes, but on trust. And it's not just about waiting for something to happen. It's about becoming something while you wait. Because if God gave you everything instantly, you might get the blessing, but lose the lesson. You might step into the promise without the strength to sustain it. But when you go through silence, you learn how to stand firm. You learn how to pray when there's no response. You learn how to believe without evidence, and that makes you unstoppable. So don't despise the silence. Don't assume that nothing's happening. Don't confuse waiting with wasting. Every second of that silence is sacred. It's building you, molding you, preparing you. The silence is not the absence of God. It's the presence of purpose. It's the space between your faith and your fulfillment. And in that space, everything you'll ever need to become who you're meant to be is being developed right now. You're not walking alone. Divine power walks beside you through every storm. There's a presence that never leaves, a strength that surrounds you even when you can't see it, a force greater than fear that's guiding your every step. You might not always feel it. You might not always recognize it, but it's there. It's there when your heart breaks. It's there when the world feels too heavy. It's there when you whisper prayers through tears you can't hold back. Even when you think you're completely alone, something sacred stands beside you, carrying you through the moments that should have broken you. Life will test you. It will push you to the edge. It will strip away your comfort, your confidence, your certainty. There will be days when it feels like the storm won't stop raging, when every step forward feels like you're walking against the wind, when every voice around you says it's over. And in those moments, the mind starts to believe the lie that you've been left alone to face it. But that's never the truth. The truth is, you've never taken a single step without divine presence beside you. The same power that spoke creation into existence walks with you through the chaos of your circumstances. You are not abandoned. You are not forsaken. You are accompanied by the same presence that parts seas, calms storms, and resurrects hope from the ashes of defeat. Sometimes you don't recognize it because the storm is too loud. The thunder of fear, the wind of anxiety, the rain of uncertainty. They drown out the still, small voice that says, I'm here. But just because you can't hear that voice doesn't mean it's not speaking. Silence doesn't mean absence. It means you're being called to trust deeper. It means you're being invited to walk by faith, not by sight. You may not see a way through, but the one beside you already knows the path. You may feel lost, but you're walking with the one who never loses direction. When you're in the storm, it's easy to focus on what's against you. The waves look higher than your hope. The darkness feels thicker than your faith. But what if instead of focusing on what's around you, you remembered who's beside you? The same power that's been faithful before will be faithful again. The same strength that carried you through past storms will carry you through this one too. You might be walking through fire, but you're not walking in it alone. You might be surrounded by uncertainty, but you're surrounded by protection too. You're not defenseless. You're divinely guarded. When you walk with divine power, the storm doesn't disappear, but it loses its ability to destroy you. You still feel the rain, but you're not washed away. You still see the lightning, but it doesn't strike you down because the power walking beside you is greater than anything that rises against you. You don't have to understand how, you just have to trust that it's true. Every time you've been through something that should have ended you, that should have taken you out, that should have crushed you, and yet you're still here, that's evidence. That's proof that you were never walking alone. There's a reason you didn't lose your mind when you could have. There's a reason you kept going when you had nothing left. There's a reason the worst moments of your life didn't have the final word. It's because divine power was there, holding you, strengthening you, fighting battles you couldn't see. You thought it was you getting back up, but it was grace lifting you. You thought it was your willpower, but it was divine protection making sure you still had breath in your body. You didn't survive by accident. You were sustained by something greater. Sometimes the divine power doesn't remove the storm, it walks with you through it. It doesn't always calm the waves. Sometimes it strengthens your legs to keep walking on top of them. Because the goal isn't always to escape difficulty, it's to discover who you are and who walks with you in it. Storms reveal presence. When everything else falls apart, that's when you see who's truly with you. And divine presence never leaves. It doesn't walk away when things get messy. It doesn't disappear when you fall apart. It stays. It protects. It uplifts. That's why you've got to stop measuring God's presence by how calm your life feels. Calm doesn't mean close, and chaos doesn't mean absent. He's as close in the storm as he is in the sunshine. Sometimes he allows the wind to blow not to destroy you, but to remind you where your foundation truly is. Because when everything is stripped away, the plans, the control, the certainty, all that's left is trust. And that trust connects you to the one walking beside you. Every storm has an expiration date. Every battle has an end. But the presence walking with you, that's eternal. You can face anything knowing you're not facing it alone. You can endure the hardest seasons because you know divine strength is within reach at every step. You can walk through darkness knowing light walks with you. You can stand in uncertainty knowing that certainty surrounds you. You can lose everything and still not be lost because the power walking beside you cannot be taken. There are times when the people you thought would stand beside you will walk away. Friends may disappear, relationships may crumble, support may vanish, and you'll feel the loneliness sink in. But that's when the divine becomes most real. That's when you realize that human presence is temporary, but divine presence is eternal. That's when you stop relying on people to fill the space only God can occupy. That's when you stop begging for someone to stay because You realize you were never truly alone in the first place. You're surrounded by a love that doesn't waver. You're held by a strength that doesn't weaken. You're guided by wisdom that doesn't fail. Every step you take, every breath you draw, there's divine energy walking right there with you, whispering courage when fear shouts too loud, giving you peace when your heart is in chaos, reminding you that even in the storm you are seen, known, and carried. And maybe that's what the storm was meant to teach you, that divine presence isn't a feeling, it's a reality. It's not dependent on your emotions, your circumstances, or your ability to stay strong. It's constant, unwavering, unbreakable. It's what's kept you standing when everything else has fallen. It's what's given you strength you didn't know you had, courage you didn't think existed, and peace that doesn't make sense in the middle of chaos. You are not walking through life alone. Every step, every tear, every victory, every setback, divine power is walking beside you through it all. It's not behind you. It's not ahead of you. It's with you right now in this moment. And that's what gives you the power to keep moving forward, even through the storm. The real victory is not in never falling, but in never quitting. Life is going to knock you down. There will be moments when everything seems to go wrong, when the doors you were counting on slam shut, when the people you trusted disappoint you, when your plans crumble in your hands. Falling is inevitable. You can't avoid it. Everyone experiences failure, loss, heartbreak, and disappointment. That's part of being human. But here's the truth: falling doesn't define you. What defines you is whether you get back up, whether you refuse to let defeat write your story, whether you choose to stand again even when your body aches and your spirit trembles. That's where victory lies, not in avoiding the falls, but in the courage to rise after every one of them. Falling feels final. When you hit the ground, it seems like the end of the road. The weight of circumstances presses down, and the voice in your head starts to whisper, "This is it. You can't do it anymore. You've failed." That's the moment most people give up. That's when hope feels too far away, when fear becomes louder than faith, when quitting seems like the only option. But you have to realize that these moments are temporary. They are not permanent. And more importantly, they are not the measure of your potential. The measure of your potential is your willingness to rise again and again, refusing to let one fall dictate the rest of your life. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. Every failure carries within it a lesson that can catapult you higher than success ever could if it came without struggle. You learn things in the valley that you could never learn on the mountaintop. You discover resilience, endurance, patience, and strength in ways that only adversity can teach. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is not luck. It's persistence. It's the refusal to quit, even when quitting seems rational. It's the decision to fight for your vision, your dreams, your purpose, even when the world tells you it's over. Resilience is not automatic. It's a choice. It's waking up every day and saying, "I will not be defeated. I will not quit. I will rise again." Even when the pain lingers, even when the disappointment stings, even when your heart is heavy with frustration, you take the next step, and then the next, and then the next. Because victory is cumulative. Every time you rise after falling, you gain strength. Every time you refuse to give up, you prove to yourself that nothing external has the power to define you. It is in these repeated acts of courage that you create momentum, and momentum carries you toward the breakthroughs you've been waiting for. When you refuse to quit, you also inspire others. People may not see the internal battle you fight, but they see the courage it takes to keep going. They see the determination to continue when everything tells you to stop. Your persistence becomes a beacon of hope for others who are struggling, a reminder that victory is possible even in the darkest of times. You may feel isolated in your challenges, but by choosing to rise, you show that adversity is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of transformation. Fear will try to convince you to quit. Fear will whisper that you're not good enough, that you're too weak, that your efforts are useless. But fear only has power when you listen to it. When you rise despite fear, when you continue in spite of it, you take back your power. You show yourself that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. Every time you refuse to quit, you weaken fear's grip and strengthen your belief in your own resilience. You build a muscle that cannot be broken, a mindset that cannot be shaken, a spirit that cannot be defeated. Sometimes the victory comes quietly. Sometimes it doesn't look like what you imagine. Sometimes the breakthrough doesn't arrive in the form you expected. But the victory is still yours because you didn't quit. You endured. You fought. You kept showing up. And that's more important than instant gratification or visible success. Because anyone can succeed when the path is easy. But it takes extraordinary courage to persist when the journey is hard, when the challenges keep coming, when the world seems to be against you. That is where real victory is found, in the unwavering commitment to keep moving forward. The process of never quitting transforms you. It teaches you discipline, patience, and humility. It teaches you to rely on more than your own strength. It teaches you to trust in the process, to lean on faith, to believe in your purpose even when you can't see the entire path. Each fall becomes a stepping stone. Each obstacle becomes a teacher. Each struggle becomes a catalyst for growth. And through it all, you become someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient than you ever imagined possible. Quitting is the easy choice. Anyone can give up when the going gets tough. But it's the decision to rise, to continue to persevere, that separates those who achieve lasting success from those who settle for mediocrity. Every time you resist the urge to quit, you are shaping your future. You are proving to yourself that you are capable of more than you thought. You are creating a legacy of determination and courage. You are building a foundation that no failure, no setback, no obstacle can destroy. Even when the odds are stacked against you, even when it seems impossible, you can still claim victory. Because victory is not about the external circumstances. It's about the internal decision. It's about refusing to let circumstances define your outcome. It's about standing up when others would stay down. It's about choosing perseverance over despair, courage over fear, action over inaction. That decision alone is more powerful than any obstacle you face. The truth is, life will continue to challenge you. There will always be new mountains to climb, new storms to weather, new trials to endure. But each time you choose not to quit, you strengthen yourself for the next challenge. You develop endurance that carries you further than you thought possible. You build a resilience that cannot be shaken. You cultivate a mindset that sees opportunity where others see defeat. And over time, this repeated commitment to rise becomes a pattern of victory. Not a single moment, but a continuous life of triumph over adversity. When you understand that the real victory is in never quitting, you shift your perspective on failure. You stop fearing it. You stop running from it. You see it as a necessary part of the journey. You understand that every setback is temporary, that every fall is a chance to rise stronger, that every challenge is an opportunity to prove your commitment to yourself and your purpose. Quitting becomes unthinkable because you recognize that each step forward, no matter how small, is a step toward ultimate success. The world may celebrate instant results, but the most extraordinary victories are forged in persistence. They are built in the moments when no one is watching, when the path is hardest, when hope feels distant, and yet you choose to move forward anyway. That's where true strength is found. That's where character is built. That's where legacy begins, because anyone can coast through life when everything goes their way. It's the ones who rise every time they fall, the ones who refuse to quit, the ones who keep showing up in the face of adversity. They are the ones who leave a mark that lasts, the ones who achieve victories that transcend circumstance, the ones who become unstoppable. When you embrace the truth that victory is in never quitting, you unlock a power within yourself that cannot be taken away. You gain a sense of purpose that drives you forward. You develop a resilience that carries you through the darkest nights. You cultivate a mindset that refuses to be defeated by temporary setbacks. You become someone who doesn't just survive life. You dominate it, not by avoiding the falls, but by mastering the art of rising after each one. And so every time you feel like giving up, every time failure knocks at your door, every time the weight of the world threatens to push you down, remember this: the real victory isn't in never falling. It's in never quitting. It's in standing up when the world says stay down. It's in choosing perseverance when quitting seems easier. It's in taking the next step, and then the next, and then the next, no matter how difficult the journey, no matter how many times you've fallen before, because that refusal to quit is what creates unstoppable strength, unshakable faith, and lasting triumph. Fear will try to convince you to quit, to step back, to give up on what you know in your heart you were meant to pursue. Fear is relentless. It whispers lies at the moments when you are most vulnerable, at the times when your confidence is low, at the moments when doubt begins to creep in. Fear tells you that you're not strong enough, that you're not capable, that the challenge ahead is too great. It wants you to believe that the road is impossible, that your dreams are out of reach, that your efforts will amount to nothing. And if you listen even for a moment, fear can paralyze you, making the familiar feel safer than the extraordinary, making quitting seem like the only logical option. But fear is not truth. Fear is a test, a signal, a challenge. It is a call to rise above, to confront the lies, to push forward even when your heart wants to retreat. The difference between those who succeed and those who fall is not that they never experience fear, but that they refuse to let it dictate their actions. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is acting in spite of it. Courage is moving forward even when your legs shake, when your mind screams doubt, when your heart feels heavy. Every step you take in the presence of fear strengthens you, builds resilience, and expands your capacity to handle life's challenges. Fear loses power when met with action. Fear is diminished when you refuse to quit. Fear has no choice but to recede when you commit fully to your purpose, even when uncertainty surrounds you. Fear is often disguised as practicality. It will tell you to play it safe, to avoid risk, to settle for what feels comfortable. It will mask itself as wisdom, pretending to protect you from failure, from disappointment, from loss. But listen closely. Playing it safe will never produce the life you're capable of living. Settling for comfort will never bring fulfillment. Avoiding risk may prevent temporary pain, but it also prevents growth. Fear's greatest trick is convincing you that caution is safety, when in reality, it is a chain that keeps you from stepping into your destiny. The moments when fear screams the loudest are often the moments just before breakthrough. When you face fear head on, you discover the strength within you that you didn't know existed. You realize that your capacity to endure, to persist, to rise again is far greater than you imagined. Fear tests you, yes, but it also reveals your courage. It exposes your resilience. It challenges your faith. And when you take that step forward anyway, you are no longer the person who hesitated in the face of uncertainty. You are transformed. Each act of bravery, no matter how small, compounds into unstoppable momentum. Each decision to move forward reinforces your power, your confidence, your belief in what's possible. Fear is also a teacher. It teaches you about your priorities, about what matters most to you, about the strength that lies dormant inside your spirit. When fear arises, it points to the areas where growth is possible. It highlights the places where courage must be cultivated. It reveals the gaps between your current self and your potential. Fear is uncomfortable because it is instructive. It pushes you beyond the boundaries of what you think you can do, forcing you to expand into the life you are capable of living. The lessons fear offers are not pleasant, but they are necessary. They forge character, resilience, and wisdom. You must learn to recognize fear without letting it control you. Fear is a feeling, not a fact. It is an emotional response, not an inevitable outcome. You feel it, yes, but feeling it does not obligate you to surrender to it. You have the power to act in alignment with your purpose despite fear. You have the ability to choose courage over comfort, action over avoidance, persistence over retreat. Each time you make that choice, you weaken fear's influence over you. You prove to yourself that you are capable of more than your doubts, stronger than your anxieties, and more resilient than the obstacles you face. Faith and fear cannot coexist in the same space. The moment you choose to trust in what is greater than your doubts, in what is bigger than your limitations, fear begins to lose its grip. Faith is not passive, it is active. Faith is a decision to move forward in the face of uncertainty. Faith is trusting that the path will become clear as you walk it. Faith is choosing hope when fear tries to convince you that nothing will work out. The more you cultivate faith, the less power fear holds over you. And the more you act in alignment with your faith, the more unstoppable you become. Fear also tests your commitment. It shows you what you truly value, what you are willing to fight for, what you are unwilling to compromise. When fear appears, it gives you a choice to give in and retreat, or to rise and advance. Your choice in those moments determines the trajectory of your life. Quitting may feel easier, safer, more convenient, but it does not produce the life you were meant to live. Rising in spite of fear creates a momentum that carries you past obstacles, propels you toward your goals, and positions you to achieve breakthroughs you never thought possible. It is important to remember that fear is temporary, but the results of persistence are lasting. The discomfort, the anxiety, the doubt, these are fleeting. The courage, the growth, the achievements, the victories, these endure. Every time you face fear and refuse to quit, you are building a foundation for the next challenge. Every act of courage strengthens your ability to confront the next obstacle. Every moment you move forward despite fear expands your capacity for greatness. Fear may visit repeatedly, but it cannot stay where courage has taken root. Surround yourself with reminders of your resilience and your strength. Reflect on past victories, even small ones, and remember the times you pushed through despite fear. Those experiences are evidence of what you are capable of when you refuse to quit. They are proof that fear is not a stop sign, but a signal that growth is near. They are confirmation that you have within you everything you need to rise, to endure, to succeed, to prevail. Let those reminders fortify your spirit and guide your steps when fear threatens to paralyze you. Action is the antidote to fear. The longer you wait, the louder fear becomes. The longer you hesitate, the stronger doubt grows. Courage is not waiting for fear to disappear. It is moving forward while fear exists. Every step you take, no matter how tentative, chips away at fear's power. Every choice to act builds momentum, reinforces your confidence, and proves to yourself that you are capable of more than you imagine. Fear can't stop a person in motion, Once you decide to move forward, once you commit to rise, fear has no choice but to fall behind. Your mindset matters. Fear thrives in uncertainty, but it diminishes in clarity and focus. When you align your mind with your purpose, when you set your eyes on your goals, when you take deliberate steps toward what matters most, fear begins to lose its authority. Your focus becomes a shield. Your purpose becomes a weapon, and your actions become unstoppable. The stronger your belief in your mission, the weaker fear becomes. The more deliberate your steps, the less influence fear has. And the more consistently you act, the more confident, resilient, and powerful you become. Every time you choose courage over fear, you are reshaping your reality. You are breaking patterns of hesitation and doubt. You are creating a momentum that propels you toward achievement, toward breakthroughs, toward transformation. Fear may always appear, but your response to it determines whether it defines you or drives you. Refusing to quit in the face of fear is a declaration that nothing external can dictate your outcome, that no obstacle can steal your purpose, that no doubt can overpower your determination. And the most important truth to remember is this: fear cannot exist in the presence of action, faith, and perseverance. The moment you take the first step despite fear, you reclaim your power. The moment you refuse to quit, you assert your authority over doubt. The moment you act in alignment with your purpose, fear becomes a tool for growth rather than a barrier. Fear will challenge you, yes, but it will not defeat you, because the power to rise, to endure, to persist, to win has always been within you.